wherever you're watching us from, Kenya, East Africa, Africa, and beyond. You're right on time for DBN News with me, Esther Kimani, bringing you both local and international news. Welcome. Starting us off to a local news. Today, Governor Waiguru appeared before the Senate Committee to answer to charges against her. She's accused of abuse of power and violation of the Constitution. NTV reports.
Would you kindly tell these members your full names?
Thank you, Chair. Once again, I'm Honorable Kirinyaga, MCA elected to represent Mutira Ward. And for avoidance of doubt, Council and Chair, I'm a second-term MCA. And in the previous regime, I was holding the office of the Leader of Majority. And Further Chair, I want to confirm that as MCAs, at times we are disrespected and disregarded, and therefore the notion that MCAs are councillors, actually, Chair, you were an MCA last term, and you can attest to the same, Chair. And Chair, as I proceed, I also want to say that I've undergone training, and professionally, I'm a chemical engineer, Chair. And as we proceed, Chair, I would want to say that the Senate is not only mandated to protect one arm of the county government, that is the executive. The Senate is mandated even to protect the county assembly from the excesses of the executive, Chair. And Chair, from the statement that was made by the governor, Chair, it's unfortunate that the arrogance, rudeness, and disrespect of the members of the county assembly, Chair, could be openly be seen and can be confirmed. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mheshimiwa. From which university did you graduate from, and which year?
I want to confirm that I graduated from Kenyatta University in the year 2011, in the month of December.
Confirm that you are the mover of this motion in the county assembly.
Council, I want to confirm that I'm the mover of this motion and therefore should be accused as the chief accuser.
And were you elected through the Jubilee Party, or which party sponsored you to the assembly?
Council, through the chair, I want to confirm that I was elected as an independent candidate.
You are familiar with the content of the motion?
Chair, through the chair, I am.
You are familiar that the governor is facing accusations of abuse of office?
Through the chair, I am.
You also confirm that the abuse of office also manifests itself through undermining of the authority and the power of the county assembly?
Through the chair, I am.
Confirm to this committee whether the assembly has been able to offer effective oversight in the circumstances. Yes or no?
No, through the chair.
Would you lead us in your evidence, and you filed your statement before this committee? Would you wish to adopt it as your statement?
Through the chair, I adopt it as my statement.
And you confirm that the signature bearing herein is that of Honorable David Kenywa?
Through the chair, I confirm.
It is your evidence that the governor has been undermining the authority of the county assembly, yes?
Yes, through the chair.
Do you have evidence to that effect?
Yes.
And how has the undermining manifested itself?
I want to confirm that the governor of Kirinyaga has blatantly undermined the authority of the county assembly. It's the provision of the standing orders, the Constitution, and the County Government Act that the governor is supposed to table plans and address the county assembly annually. And through the chair, I want to confirm that I've been in that assembly since the start of this term, and the governor only appeared once during the opening of the county assembly, and that cannot be dictated or said to be an address because it was the official opening of the county assembly. Some of us, we were very new, and it was during the swearing in. In the year 2018 and in the year 2019, the governor has never done any address to the county assembly, in which, in that address, it's supposed to determine and provide legislative agenda that also advises the budgeting and the planning of the county. Council, I haven't finished. I also want to say that the County Assembly of Kirinyaga and myself being the mover, this was the last resort.
The governor has annexed in her statement two addresses, purported addresses, one dated the 11th of September 2019 and the other one dated the 29th of November 2019. Yes? Did you witness those addresses and were you at the assembly at that particular time?
Chair, I want to say that I'm a strict attendant to the County Assembly sessions and no such address was made to the County Assembly.
Why is it so important for the county governor to address the assembly?
Number one, I want to say that is a legal provision within the standing orders and within the County Government Act, I think Section 30 of the County Government Act, that provide some of the responsibilities of the governor that is supposed to address the County Assembly annually. And I want to say that we can even copy from the national government to which we as the County Assembly borrows. We have seen the President addressing the joint session of the National Assembly and the Senate that has been happening annually. In the County Assembly of Kirinyaga, that has not been the case, and it's important since such addresses provide the legislative agenda for the County Assembly, and number two, it devises budgeting and planning for the County Assembly. Therefore, the process of budgeting and planning in the county is challenged by the fact that there has never been such addresses.
Is it a provision in your standing orders that they ought to happen?
Yes, it's a provision in the standing orders of Kirinyaga County Assembly.
I want to take you through several letters. I'm referring to a letter dated 23rd, which is a request for information. It is addressed to one Gladys Kemingi, the CEC Health Medical Services in Kirinyaga County. Do you know her?
I know her. She is the recently approved CEC Medical Services and Health Services after the resignation of the previous County Executive Committee member for Health.
The letter is emanating from the clerk of the County Assembly, correct?
True.
You are conversant and aware of the information that you are seeking in respect to the health matters?
Yes.
Did you get a response to that letter?
Chair, I want to confirm that we did not get a response, and in pursuing the same agenda of the health sector and the challenges that we are facing in Kirinyaga, we as the MCAs proceeded to the county headquarters, and I want to confirm that we were tear gassed as MCAs and expelled from that area.
Chairman, with your permission.
Joining me in studio is our senior political reporter, Nelson Mushoki. Welcome, Nelson.
Pleasure for having you in this segment. Hope your day has been well.
Nelson, last week we saw Governor Waiguru impeached by the Kirinyaga County Assembly. And today we saw her appear before the Senate Committee to answer to the charges. The charges were violation of the Constitution and abuse of power. What's your take on this?
I would like to comment about Waiguru's impeachment in Kirinyaga County. This happens when the MCAs in Kirinyaga County decided to table a motion to impeach Governor Waiguru for abuse of office and also misuse of power in her office in Kirinyaga County. Remembering that it's just a few months ago when we had the impeachment of Kiabu governor, that is a former Governor Ferdinand Waititu, who was impeached, and also the motion was tabled before the Senate Committee. In fact, not the Senate Committee, but a plenary committee of the whole House. And when you see the differences between the current impeachment and the previous impeachment for Governor Waititu, there is a big difference, because now the impeachment for Kirinyaga Governor Ann Waiguru has been imposed, or rather have been posed to be a selected committee, whereby we know in previous impeachment and a motion that was tabled before Senate was heard by a whole House, not a selection committee. And what we are seeing here is all about if you don't dance to the tune of a certain political realignment, then it means that you are being impeached through false allegation. And maybe we would wait and see how it pans out during this period once Waiguru, whether she's going to be impeached or whether she is going to retain her seat back as Kirinyaga governor.
Yes, we wait to see. But even so, Nelson, last week in the Senate, we saw Senator James Orengo trying to insinuate that this was a maneuver. It's what will be termed as designated for those in one side of political leniency.
Remember, there was news that was running all over the social media that the Prime Minister, rather the governor, who is Kirinyaga Governor Ann Waiguru, was hosted a meeting with the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, and those news went viral. And remember that maybe she was trying to save herself from being impeached as the governor for Kirinyaga. Maybe, I don't know, we wait and see how it pans out as the ground plays out to the political arena.
Okay. Still on matters of politics, President Uhuru Kenyatta appears to have completed what many are seeing as a ruthless rout of his Deputy President William Ruto. The removal of Aden Duale as Majority Leader in the National Assembly completes weeks of a sustained shelling of the Houses of Parliament targeting allies of the Deputy President. President Kenyatta has now effectively taken control of the Houses of Parliament that were once seen as dominated by allies of the Deputy President. Citizen reports.
Close confidence of President Uhuru Kenyatta had promised the country a ruthless and lethal president in his second and final term. Over the past 2 months, President Uhuru Kenyatta has tightened his grip on power. Anyone seen to be undermining his legacy agenda given a dress down and stripped off influential possessions they hold. The pothole-riddled path to his legacy is now being tarmacked 1 inch at a time and seemingly at the expense of his relationship with his deputy. This past month, his attention has been on Parliament. May 11th, a parliamentary group meeting held at State House, Nairobi, attended by 20 senators, dealt a blow to vocal Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen and his Nakuru counterpart Susan Kihika, who were ousted as Majority Leader and Majority Whip respectively. KANU loyalist and West Pokot Senator Samuel Pogisio and his Murang'a counterpart Irungu Kang'ata took their places. Attempts by allies of the Deputy President to scuttle the removal of Deputy Speaker Professor Kithure Kindiki were futile. 54 senators against 7 voting in favor of the no-confidence motion. The Tanga team would be chided for their threat that they had numbers.
We must stop running the party as though it is family property. We must stop running the party as a one-man show.
We do not understand where the anger comes from that is being directed to us.
The committee's reorganization saw Samson Cherargei of Nandi, who chaired the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, Bomet Senator Dr. Christopher Langat, chair Education, John Kinyo of Laikipia, who chaired Devolution Committee, and Meru Senator Mithika Linturi, a member of the County Public Accounts and Investments Committee, asked. As the purge targeting DP Ruto allies in Parliament continued, Mumia's East Member of Parliament Benjamin Washiali and his nominated counterpart Cecily Mbarire were ousted as Majority and Deputy Majority Whip. In their place, Emmanuel Wange of Navaholo and Imenti Central's Maoka Maore. Today, the rearrangements continued. The axe fell on Majority Leader Aden Duale.
The departmental committees is one of the responsibilities we have. Is between now and Thursday, we will have processed all the names that need to be changed, working obviously with the party leader, and then you'll get to hear of those when the names are officially released in Parliament.
It has been evident since 2013 that Deputy President William Ruto enjoyed great influence over both houses of Parliament, having strategically placed his allies in influential positions. With the removal of his allies, the influence of the DP is sitting on sinking sand as Kenyatta moves to take charge of the legislative agenda over the next 2 years. One of his pet subjects, the BBI report, is expected to be tabled in the House. There is also a looming referendum bill, which the president once approved effortlessly. by co-opting Kanu and Wiper Party, and with a newfound working relationship with ODM leader Raila Odinga, the rift between the president and his deputy is bound to widen even further. It is seemingly President Uhuru Kenyatta's way or you hit the highway, and with sources intimating that Kenyatta told the perceived rebels to feel free and do what they have been advocating for. Is this a sign that the end is near for the two? Chemutai Goin, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
We've seen Majority Leader Aden Duale being removed from the National Assembly. Last week we also saw Senator Murkomen also being removed, as well as Kirinyaga as the Deputy Speaker. What's your take on this?
Number one is that what has been happening around, it seems that the president is trying to clean the house, and effectively that is why we saw the leader of majority, Aden Duale, being removed, or rather being ousted from being the leader of majority. Remember, after the leader of majority in the Senate was removed and the seat was taken over by West Pokot Senator, that is Samuel Pogishio, continues to be the leader of majority in the Senate, and also in the National Assembly is now taken over by Kipipiri MP Amos Kemunya, who now will play a role of being the leader of majority in the National Assembly. We continue to see more of political realignment, and what has been happening in the country is that the president now will take action, will continue to take action to ensure those defying or rather going against the party's leadership rules are being removed from either the committee or other leading leadership in the National Assembly and also in the Senate.
We'll continue to see. To matters education, the Ministry of Education intends to distribute 24 million masks to schools by mid-August before the scheduled reopening of schools by September. Eldoret-based textile firm Rivertex East Africa has stepped up mass production of masks for pupils. Education Secretary Professor George Magoha says several government agencies have been mandated to put in place measures that will ensure that learners are safe from contracting the coronavirus.
The biggest concern for parents with regard to the reopening of schools is a likely spike in COVID-19 infections among children. Will the prototype face mask that Eldoret-based textile Rivertex East Africa is producing in preparation for possible reopening of schools be convenient for learners? Can our schools handle the safety demands that come with COVID-19? That is the task that lies ahead.
We have been at the National Youth Service, which has produced a prototype. What we considered together with the Ministry of Health in this team includes Dr. Ambajo, who was seconded to us by the Ministry of Health to consider the quality of material that our children require and the sizes.
It's been 3 months since schools closed in efforts to curb the spread of COVID-19. The Moi University-owned textile manufacturer is stepping up mass production of masks in preparation for possible reopening of schools. Education CS Professor George Magoha directing that at least 24 million masks be distributed to schools before September.
We are still debating altogether whether or not we should also mask the pre-primary 1 and pre-primary 2 school children. That debate is ongoing. I think we shall reach a consensus. Perhaps it may not be wise to mask them. We are also still debating as to whether to test all the teachers that are going to go back to schools before they go back to schools.
The firm continues to be a hub of activity with a 24-hour production to ensure deadlines are met. The firm is producing at least 8,000 masks daily.
Each child is going to get 2, so that when they wash another one, the other one is drying. So these are useful masks, like the one we have been giving out to the communities. So it's a similar thing, 3-ply, but reusable.
Besides the mass production of masks, one of the key concerns is how classrooms would look like if learners are to observe social distancing. Are Kenyan schools built to comply with social distancing? Additional measures touching on social distancing, hygiene and aeration would have to be put in place.
And if the children are to open in September, then between 22 and 24 million masks should be in school by mid of August this year, as per the presidential directive.
The Education CS also poked holes into the recently released report, claiming thousands of underage girls have been impregnated since the closure of schools in March over the COVID-19 pandemic. Magoha says the Ministry of Education and the Medical Council are investigating the issue and will make a pronouncement on the matter in the coming days. Lillian Muli, Citizen TV.
Matters of security. Insecurity in Marsabit continued to worsen as 2 more secondary school children were killed while a third one was injured. The attack, which appears to be in revenge to the recent killings of 4 in Songa, was carried out by armed gunmen who shot and killed the school children 1.5 kilometers from Marsabit town. The latest killings could spark off fresh clashes. The deceased 17-year-old boys were buried this evening, with leaders calling on the government to intervene and end the tribal conflict, which has now left 12 dead in 4 weeks. More from Citizen.
In revenge to the recent killings of 4 in Songa was carried out by armed gunmen who shot and killed the school children 1.5 kilometers from Marsabit town. The latest killings could spark off fresh clashes, while the deceased 17-year-old boys were buried this evening, with the leaders calling on the government to intervene and end the tribal conflict, which has now left 12 dead in just 4 weeks.
To business, borrowers can now rest easy, as it will become a little difficult for fraudsters to steal and use your identity to borrow money. This follows the launch of Metropole Theft Identity Service, a premium short messaging service or SMS that alerts subscribers every time their identity is used to access credit from lenders. The service aims to cushion its subscribers from identity theft-related fraud and associated losses, in turn affording unaffected subscriber this opportunity to raise and address a dispute with the CRB in good time with respect to a regular loan account on their credit profile. KTN tells us more.
Now, Metropole also launched the COVID-19 loan restructure product that will enable Kenyans to engage safely and remotely with their lenders to negotiate loan restructure terms.
Most customers get to know about CRB when they...
We have gone ahead as an institution that looks at its customer care and developed an customer identity theft solution. And the identity theft solution connects you to the bureau and monitors activities that are happening on your profile, so that in the event that there is any change, either somebody looking at your profile or a credit application is made on your profile or your score changes, you should be able to get an alert to tell you that there is an activity that is taking place on your profile. If you're aware, that's fine. But if you are not aware, can you now start finding out or investigating?
Malawi goes to the polls on Tuesday in a landmark presidential rerun after last year's elections were marred by allegations of rigging. The results were overturned by the Constitutional Court, which ordered a fresh vote. More from Al Jazeera.
Malawi's main opposition leader Lazarus Chakwera, who formed an alliance with Vice President Saulos Chilima, says he's going to win Tuesday's presidential rerun. He lost to President Peter Mutharika by 159,000 votes in last year's election, which the Constitutional Court ruled was marred by widespread ballot rigging. Judges ordered a rerun.
You know, a lot of young people, and that's the majority of Malawians, do not have any jobs, and we are telling them that we will create jobs, we will have industry, and we will have a National Youth Service that will get every young person involved in something that will build this country.
President Mutharika tried to stop the rerun, but the Supreme Court turned down his appeal. When he then tried to force the top judge into early retirement, opposition groups accused Mutharika of trying to intimidate the judiciary. The president denies the allegation. It's only the second time a presidential election result in Africa has been overturned. Political analysts say credibility in Malawi is crucial.
The constitutional framework is there. An independent judiciary is there. I mean, we are here because of an independent judiciary putting its foot down in demanding that the elections must be held according to law, and we have managed to get here. So it's not perfect because there are still a number of significant gaps, but I think it's conducive.
There are also logistical concerns. For months, opposition groups demanded the removal of the organizers of last year's disputed election. The Electoral Commission now has a new man in charge who's under pressure to make sure voting and counting of ballot papers goes smoothly this time.
Well, the first challenge, of course, was the issue of time. We were sworn in on the 9th of June, and the same day Parliament resolved that the date of election should be the 23rd of June. We made a decision to gazette that date, which meant that we had less than 2 weeks in order to prepare for these elections.
The coronavirus pandemic has restricted travel for international election observers. Organizers are trying to keep voters safe by encouraging social distancing, mask wearing and hand washing, all of which hasn't been widely seen during campaigning. Harun Mutasa, Al Jazeera.
On to our international news. The rate of COVID-19 infections in the U.S. has surged across southern and southwestern states. New cases of the virus have sparked where bars, restaurants and other businesses reopened early. There are questions about whether restrictions have been lifted too soon. More from Al Jazeera.
29 U.S. states and territories are seeing a spike in coronavirus cases. Several, including Arizona, California, Oklahoma, and Texas, reported record-high single-day infections. Governor Ron DeSantis says worrying numbers of new cases involve young people who were previously thought to be at lesser risk.
Huge numbers of people, particularly in that 20 to 30 cohort, who are testing, but then testing positive. 62% of all new cases in Florida for the week of June 7th are under the age of 45.
DeSantis says some younger people have let down their guard.
I think that we've started to see, some erosion in the social distancing from probably some of the younger population.
Many bars in Tampa have shut down after staff tested positive. In Texas, Governor Greg Abbott displayed a graph showing a sharp spike in hospitalizations, 3,200 per day.
To state the obvious, COVID-19 is now spreading at an unacceptable rate in Texas, and it must be corralled.
In Arizona, people stood in lines several kilometers long to get tested. The state recorded more than 3,000 new cases over the weekend, bringing Arizona's total confirmed cases to more than 50,000. President Donald Trump reportedly was furious when his Oklahoma rally on Saturday flopped with a much smaller crowd than anticipated. Trump plans another campaign event in Phoenix, Arizona on Tuesday. At his Tulsa rally, Trump said he told officials to slow down testing because the numbers looked bad. The White House spokesperson claimed Trump was just making a joke and cast blame on the media.
It was a comment that he made in jest. It's a comment that he made in passing, specifically with regard to the media coverage and pointing out the fact that the media never acknowledges that we have more cases because when you test more people, you find more cases.
Trump appeared serious, not joking, when he made the comment. If it really was a joke, many observers found it odd that the president would find humor in a pandemic that has killed 120,000 people in the United States. Rob Reynolds, Al Jazeera.
White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany now says that President Donald Trump was involved in the firing of the U.S. Attorney General Geoffrey Berman just days after Trump denied involvement. CNN reports.
We have a very capable Attorney General, so that's really up to him.
I'm not involved.
I'm not involved, he said. But today, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany said the president was involved, that Berman was ousted. So the outgoing chair of the Securities and Exchange Commission, who has no prosecutorial experience, could take the job.
But why did the president say he wasn't involved in the firing of Jeff Berman when the attorney general said the president was the one who fired him?
Because the attorney general was taking the lead on this matter. He did come to the president and report to him when Mr. Berman decided not to leave. And at that point is when the president agreed with the decision of the attorney general and that to fire Mr. Berman and to promote Mr. Clayton.
So he was involved in it then?
He was involved in a sign-off capacity. He was not, AG Barr was leading the way, but in a sign-off capacity, yes, the president was.
Joining me now is CNN senior legal analyst and former federal prosecutor Laura Coates. Laura, let's just start with the obvious. First, the president said he wasn't involved. Now the White House says the president was involved. I don't know which one of those claims is a lie, but one of them is.
And neither of them is very good. I mean, the right hand must tell the left hand what it's doing in order for people to actually have trust and faith that they're saying things that are truthful. And here, either the President of the United States is completely ignorant of the fact that the Attorney General is going to oust somebody that he himself sat down personally with to have an interview, unlike any of the other U.S. attorneys that he replaced at that point in time, that suddenly just said out of the blue, no thank you, I'm going to do it autonomously, unilaterally here, or the President of the United States had his thumb on a scale involving a prosecutor who oversaw cases with people who were within his orbit. So either way, the president is kind of between a rock and a hard place. The American people are at a disadvantage because they cannot trust the words coming out of either Attorney General Barr or President Trump. Doesn't bode well.
So Berman's office was involved in a number of high-profile cases or investigations of individuals with close ties to President Trump, including Trump's former attorney Michael Cohen, Trump's current attorney, Rudy Giuliani, Giuliani's Ukrainian associates, Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman, as well as the Trump Inaugural Committee. We should also note that in John Bolton's book, Trump promises Turkish President Erdogan that he will stop Berman's investigation of the Turkish state-owned Halk Bank. So I guess the first question I have is, what happens to any pending investigations now that Berman's gone?
Well, perhaps the biggest criteria for him deciding to step down for Berman was to say at this point yesterday morning was who would actually succeed him. Would it be somebody who would simply be a political pawn, perhaps, somebody who would just do the president's bidding? Remember, this is called the Sovereign District of New York, not to denigrate them or have some sort of hubris, but because it's a matter of saying they don't bend to political pressure. They're supposed to be autonomous, no political favor going either direction. So perhaps his first action was to say, on that very notion, Jake, who will replace me? Now that it will be his deputy, who I assume he trusts a great deal and has credibility in the office, that is going to make a huge difference on the way, on whether these cases can continue to go forward or whether they have to take a step back on the back burner and be ignored. But ultimately, the theme you have there of all the cases you named there, Jake, all are around kind of campaign finance related issues, from Cohen to Lev Parnas, the Trump campaign. And so here we are a few months away from an election, and for some reason that has not been articulated yet clearly, suddenly this person who oversees campaign related matters and financial related matters has been ousted. What is this saying to the American people? What message and signal are you trying to send? Is it a matter of saying we don't want oversight in this capacity? We already know what's happened to the FEC and how it has not had the same strength it once had. So this is very foreboding for people looking at the election coming up and the SDNY's ability to prosecute independently.
Let's bring in our legal analyst, Carrie Cordero, and our chief legal analyst, Jeffrey Toobin. He has a new book coming out in early August entitled True Crimes and Misdemeanors, the Investigation of Donald Trump. There you see the book cover up on the screen. Jeffrey, I want you to listen to what the White House press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany's explanation was today for the firing of Jeffrey Berman. Listen to this.
The president held Mr. Clayton in very high regard, wanted to nominate him to this position in SDNY to keep him in the government as he returns to New York. Barr was working on a smooth transition, and when Berman chose to respond in the way that he did, he came to the president, and the president agreed and fired this individual, Mr. Berman.
All right, so Jeffrey, what do you make of that explanation?
It is somewhere between bizarre and absurd. I mean, first of all, U.S. attorneys are almost never fired with 5 months to go. So why do they fire the guy who's investigating the president and his friends? And why do they try to install one of the president's golf buddies who has no prosecutorial experience in perhaps the most important prosecutor's office in the country? The whole thing just reeks of corruption. And, Jeff Berman managed to work out so that when he left, his successor was Audrey Strauss, who's a person known to have a lot of integrity. But why they fired Jeff Berman at this moment is still very much an unanswered question. And it's hard to believe there is an innocent explanation given how this all unfolded.
Kerry, this federal prosecutor, Jeffrey Berman, he has been investigating members of the president's inner circle. I'll put some of them up on the screen. Take a look at this. Michael Cohen, Igor Fruman, Lev Parnas, Rudy Giuliani, his inaugural committee, and others. Regardless of his reasoning for firing Berman, does this send the message that he's willing to retaliate against anyone who potentially could get in his way?
Well, look, the fact that the Southern District of New York was conducting all of these investigations around people who were close to the president in some way or in his orbit demonstrates why that would be the last prosecutor in the world that you would want to remove unless you want to be accused of doing things for political purposes or for corrupt purposes. And the other side of this that also is so questionable is why, when the Attorney General originally was going to remove him, he wasn't just going to go ahead and appoint the deputy or the first assistant who now is the acting according to that. So there's just so many reasons why this looks corrupt and inappropriate.
Jeffrey, let's also talk about the president's former national security advisor, John Bolton's bombshell new book. A federal judge ruled that he's free to go ahead and publish it, distribute it, but said in the ruling that Bolton, and I'm quoting now, that Bolton has exposed his country to harm and himself to civil and potentially criminal liability. Do you agree that Bolton potentially could face criminal liability?
I think John Bolton has a serious legal problem. I mean, there is this pre-publication review agreement, and the rules are very clear. You either have to honor what the administration says about what's classified and what's not, or you go to court and get a judge to overturn the administration's ruling. What Bolton did was, he said, the hell with your process, I'm just publishing my book anyway. As I understand it, that means the government is well within its rights to take any money he made on the book and perhaps to prosecute him for disclosing classified information if, in fact, it's established that this material is classified. So I think John Bolton definitely has a bestseller, but he may not have much money or any money to show for it.
And he potentially have other legal issues as well. Jeffrey Toobin and Kerry Cordero. Guys, thanks very much.
That's your up-to-date here at DBN News Desk. Be sure to catch these and more stories tomorrow, same time. I'm Esther Kimerni. Good night.